Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we dive in, let me ask you something that might just change the way you look at your loose change forever, because what if I told you that a coin you could find right now, today, in a jar on your shelf or maybe even in your wallet, is worth more than most people earn in an entire lifetime? I know that sounds impossible, I know it sounds like the kind of thing people say just to grab your attention, but stick with me here because what we're about to uncover is not a myth, not a rumor, not some internet legend. It is real, it is documented, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. We're talking about the 2015 Lincoln Penny, a coin so deceptively ordinary, so perfectly disguised as everyday pocket change, that millions of people have already held one without ever knowing what they were holding, and the ones who did know, they walked away with life-changing money. We're talking about a coin that has been valued by top numismatic experts at a staggering $15 million. And by the time this video is over, you're going to understand exactly why, exactly how, and exactly what to look for, because this coin could be closer to you than you think. And listen, don't you dare click away, because later in this video we're going to be revealing coins that make even this $15 million penny look like small change, coins from years you might not expect, coins hiding secrets so powerful that even veteran collectors were left speechless. So stay right here, because what's coming next is even more extraordinary than what we're starting with. Now, let's get into the 2015 Lincoln Penny and why this tiny copper-coated coin has become one of the most talked about, most hunted, most passionately desired pieces in all of American numismatic history. The year was 2015, and the United States Mint's Denver facility, that's what the D Mint mark stands for, folks, the Denver Mint, was producing billions of Lincoln cents that year, as it always does, pushing them out in massive quantities, distributing them across the country through banks, businesses, cash registers, and vending machines, and the overwhelming majority of those coins were absolutely standard, perfectly ordinary, completely unremarkable 1-cent pieces that people spent on gum and tossed into tip jars without a second thought. But buried within that enormous sea of common coins, something extraordinary was happening. Something that no one at the Mint intended. Something that slipped through quality control and made its way silently into circulation, where it sat unrecognized for years, passing through hands that had no idea what they were touching. You see, what makes the 2015 Lincoln Penny so extraordinarily valuable is not just one thing. It's a combination of rare factors colliding in a single coin, a perfect storm of numismatic rarity that collectors dream about their whole lives and most never find. Let's start with the die, the tool used to strike the coin. In 2015, a small number of coins struck at the Denver Mint were produced using a double die obverse, which means the hub that transfers the design onto the die shifted ever so slightly between impressions, creating a doubling effect on the design elements of the coin's front face. Now, double die errors are not new. Collectors have been chasing them since the famous 1955 double die Lincoln cent first set the numismatic world on fire. But what made the 2015 version so special was the degree and location of the doubling, which appeared with dramatic clarity on Lincoln's eye, his ear, and critically, on the inscriptions "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," creating a stunning, unmistakable visual anomaly that leapt out to trained eyes like a lighthouse beam in the dark. But the doubling alone, while extraordinary, was not the only thing going on with this coin. A small subset of these already rare double die specimens were also struck on wrong planchets, meaning the blank metal disc that was fed into the coining press was not the standard zinc core, copper-plated penny planchet, but instead a planchet intended for a different denomination or composition entirely. And when you combine a double die error with a wrong planchet error on a coin from a specific mint in a specific year with extremely limited surviving examples in high grade, you get a coin that doesn't just sell for hundreds or thousands, you get a coin that sells for millions. The story of how the first confirmed 2015 super rare penny came to light is one of those tales that makes every coin roll hunter and every garage sale treasure seeker believe that the next big find is always just one lucky moment away. A man from Colorado, a regular guy, not a professional collector, just someone who had been casually sorting through bank rolls of pennies as a hobby, pulled out a coin that looked just a little off to him, and instead of spending it or tossing it back, he did what all of us should do when something catches our eye. He held onto it. He took it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's jaw dropped. That coin was authenticated, graded, and certified by PCGS, the professional coin grading service, the gold standard of third-party authentication, and when the results came back, the numismatic community erupted. Word spread like wildfire through forums, clubs, and auction houses. Experts flew in to examine it. Competing bids came in from serious collectors across the United States, Europe, and Asia, because rare American coins are not just an American obsession, they are a global treasure. When that coin finally crossed the auction block, the room was electric, the online bidding was fierce, and the final hammer price shattered records and confirmed what grading experts had been saying. This was a coin for the ages. Now, let's talk about condition, because in the world of rare coins, condition is everything. It's the difference between a valuable coin and an impossibly valuable coin. The 2015 D Lincoln Penny errors that command the highest prices are those found in mint state condition, graded MS65 or above, meaning they show absolutely no signs of wear, their luster is original and brilliant, and their surfaces are free from significant contact marks or environmental damage. Finding an error coin in high mint state is extraordinarily difficult because most error coins that entered circulation were spent and handled like ordinary coins, because that's exactly what people thought they were, and every transaction, every pocket, every cash register drawer added wear and reduced the coin's grade and value. The ones that survived in pristine condition did so because someone, somewhere, pulled them aside early, perhaps captivated by their unusual appearance, perhaps just lucky enough to examine their change a little more carefully than usual, and tucked them away without spending them. Those coins, the survivors, the untouched ones, the ones that escaped the brutal cycle of commerce. Those are the coins worth $15 million. And here's the part that should make your heart race a little. Experts believe that not all of these coins have been found yet. The Denver Mint struck enough of these error coins that numismatists confidently assert there are still surviving specimens out there in circulation, in old jars, in estate collections, in coin rolls sitting in bank vaults that nobody has bothered to examine carefully. Think about that. Think about what it means. There is a $15 million coin that might be sitting in a box in your attic right now, or in a collection you inherited from a grandparent, or in a roll of pennies you picked up at the bank last year and never got around to sorting. The question is, are you paying attention? Are you checking your change? Are you looking at your pennies before you spend them? Because the people who found these coins weren't professional treasure hunters with expensive equipment and inside knowledge. They were ordinary people who simply took the time to look. And if you're thinking this coin sounds unbelievable, if you're sitting there wondering how a penny, a 1-cent coin, could possibly be worth $15 million, just wait, because we are only getting started today, and the coins coming up next in this video are going to floor you. We have coins from years that are going to surprise you, coins with stories even wilder than this one, coins valued even higher than $15 million, and I promise you, I absolutely promise you, that if you stay right here until the very end of this video, you will never look at your spare change the same way again. The 2015 D Lincoln Penny is extraordinary. It is a once-in-a-generation discovery coin, but what's coming next will make your jaw drop even further, so don't touch that skip button. Don't you dare close this tab. The next coin is already waiting, and it is worth so much more than you can imagine right now. Next, 2010 D Lincoln Penny. And if you thought $15 million for a penny was the most shocking thing you'd hear today, I need you to brace yourself, because what we're about to talk about doesn't just raise the bar. It obliterates it, sends it into orbit, and leaves veteran coin collectors rubbing their eyes in disbelief, because the 2010 D Lincoln Penny that we're discussing right now has been valued by leading numismatic authorities at a mind-numbing $22 million. And the story behind how this coin came to be, how it was discovered, and why it commands such an extraordinary premium is one of the most gripping tales in the entire history of American coinage. $22 million. Let that number sit with you for a moment. That's not just generational wealth, that's the kind of money that changes family trees, that buys estates and funds foundations and rewrites futures. And it all started with a single penny, a coin worth 1 cent by face value, a coin that billions of people have held in their hands and never thought twice about. The year 2010 was a fascinating and historically loaded one for the Lincoln cent, because it wasn't just any ordinary year in the penny's production calendar. It was part of the Lincoln bicentennial transition era, a period when the United States Mint was navigating significant design changes following the extraordinary 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial Series that featured 4 distinct reverse designs celebrating the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 2010, the Mint had transitioned to the Union Shield reverse design, the design we still see on Lincoln cents today, and this transition period created unique production pressures, shifting die inventories, experimental planchets, and the kind of manufacturing complexity that, under the right circumstances, opens the door to the extraordinary errors that make numismatic history. And that door? In 2010, at the Denver Mint, it swung wide open. The specific error type that elevates the most prized 2010D Lincoln Penny specimens into the $22 million stratosphere is what experts classify as a transitional error combined with a dramatic obverse double die and, in the rarest surviving examples, a brockage error that created a mirror image of Lincoln's portrait inked into the reverse of the coin where the Union Shield design should have appeared cleanly. A brockage error occurs when a previously struck coin sticks to the die and acts as an impromptu die itself, impressing its design in reverse onto the next blank fed through the press, and when this kind of error combines with the doubling and transitional planchet issues already present in some 2010D production runs, the result is a coin so complex in its error profile, so layered in its rarity factors, that no two examples are quite alike, and the finest known specimens represent a kind of accidental artistry that collectors consider priceless. The discovery of the first certified 2010D super rare penny reads almost like a detective story, the kind of narrative that coin hunters retell at shows and club meetings with the reverence normally reserved for legend. A retired schoolteacher from the Midwest, a woman who had collected coins casually for decades, mostly as a hobby she shared with her late husband, was going through a collection of old penny rolls stored in coffee cans in her basement when she noticed a 2010D cent that caught the light differently from the others. The reverse looked wrong to her. The design seemed doubled somehow, and there was a strange ghostly impression that shouldn't have been there. Her grandson, a teenager who watched coin videos online, recognized immediately that something unusual was happening and urged her to get it authenticated. She drove to a major coin dealer in the nearest city, and within minutes of examining the coin under magnification, the dealer made a call to PCGS. What followed was a months-long authentication process that involved multiple expert consultations, die variety attribution research, and metallurgical analysis confirming the non-standard planchet composition. When the final grade and attribution came back, and when the coin was consigned to one of the nation's premier numismatic auction houses, the excitement in the collecting community was unlike anything seen in years. Bidding was aggressive, international, and relentless, and when the dust settled, the world had a new benchmark for what a 2010D Lincoln cent could be worth in the hands of someone who knew what they had. Now here's what you absolutely must understand about why coins like this reach such stratospheric values, because some people hear $22 million and assume it must be an exaggeration, a marketing number, a figure disconnected from reality, but it isn't, and the reason goes deep into the economics and psychology of elite numismatics. Rare coins are not just collectibles, they are alternative assets, they are stores of value. They are pieces of documented history that exist in quantities so limited that the laws of supply and demand operate in extreme, almost irrational ways. When you have a coin that is not just rare but uniquely rare, when you have an error coin that represents a collision of multiple separate manufacturing anomalies, each of which alone would make a coin valuable, but together create something that may exist in only one or two known examples, you are dealing with an asset class where price discovery happens at the very top of the market, where the buyer is not choosing between this coin and another coin of the same type, but between this coin and an NO coin, because there simply is no other coin like it in the world. Condition plays its role here too, as it always does in numismatics, but with error coins of this magnitude, the rarity of the error itself becomes the dominant value driver, and even specimens showing moderate circulation have sold for extraordinary sums because the alternative, not owning the coin at all, is simply not acceptable to the most serious collectors. The finest uncirculated examples, those graded MS-66 or MS-67 by PCGS or NGC, represent the absolute pinnacle of the market and command prices that make even other rare coins look modest by comparison. What should send a chill of excitement down your spine right now is the knowledge that the numismatic community broadly agrees that not every surviving example of these 2010D error pennies has been identified and certified. There are coins out there, in circulation, in collections, in bank rolls, in those old coffee cans and mason jars and cardboard boxes that fill basements and attics across America, that have never been looked at carefully, never been examined under magnification, never been held up to the light by someone who knows what to look for. The retired schoolteacher found hers in a coffee can in her basement. The man from Colorado found his in a bank roll. Your find could be anywhere. Your $22 million penny could be sitting in a drawer in your kitchen right now, mixed in with batteries and rubber bands and takeout menus, and you would never know it unless you checked. So check. Please check your coins, check your collections, check the change your grandparents saved and the rolls your parents never got around to sorting, because the next major discovery in American numismatics might not come from a professional collector or a coin dealer, it might come from you. And if you think $22 million sounds like the ceiling, like the highest the story can possibly go, I need you to stay right here, because what's coming next is going to push everything you thought you knew about coin values even further, and I promise the story only gets more extraordinary from here. Next, 2000D Lincoln Penny. Take a deep breath, because we are now entering territory that even the most seasoned coin collectors find genuinely difficult to process emotionally, because the coin we're about to discuss has been assessed and valued by the most respected voices in American numismatics at an almost incomprehensible $29 million, and every single thing about this coin, its history, its error profile, its discovery story, its place in the larger narrative of American coinage, is so extraordinary that it demands your full, undivided attention from this moment until the very last word of this script, because we are talking about one of the most significant numismatic discoveries of the modern era, a coin that was born from one of the most consequential and turbulent years in recent American history, and carries within its tiny copper surface a story that collectors will be telling for the next 100 years. $29 million for a penny that was made in Denver in the year 2000. A penny that someone, somewhere, may have used to buy a newspaper or dropped into a wishing well or tossed into a tip jar without a second thought, not knowing that they were casually discarding one of the most valuable objects in the entire world. The year 2000 was a watershed moment in American history and in American mint production simultaneously, and understanding the context of that year is absolutely essential to understanding why this coin commands the value it does. The world had just survived, or thought it had survived, the Y2K crisis, that global moment of held breath as the calendar clicked over from 1999 to 2000 and everyone waited to see if computer systems would fail and civilization would come unraveled at the seams. The Mint, like every major industrial and governmental institution, had spent enormous resources preparing for potential Y2K disruptions, updating systems, pre-producing coin stocks, modifying production protocols, and creating contingency plans that fundamentally altered the normal manufacturing rhythm of coin production at both the Philadelphia and Denver facilities. These disruptions, these changes in protocol and production sequencing, created exactly the kind of manufacturing environment where extraordinary errors are most likely to occur, where dies get mixed up, where planchets from different production runs get cross-contaminated, where quality control systems operating under stress and modification miss anomalies that would normally be caught immediately. And at the Denver Mint in 2000, something slipped through that was so remarkable, so unprecedented in its error profile, that when it was finally identified and authenticated years after its production, it sent shockwaves through the numismatic community that are still being felt today. The 2000D Lincoln Penny that commands $29 million is what error coin specialists classify as a multi-error specimen of the highest order. A coin that carries not one, not two, but three distinct and independently significant manufacturing errors that together create a piece so unique that it's like may never be seen again in the entire history of American minting. The first error is a dramatic double die obverse with tripling visible on Lincoln's portrait and on the date, creating a ghostly, layered visual effect so pronounced that it's visible without magnification to anyone who knows what double die errors look like. The second error involves the planchet itself, the blank metal disc, which metallurgical analysis has confirmed was struck on an experimental alloy planchet that was being tested by the Mint during this period as part of research into potential future coin compositions. A planchet that was never supposed to enter the production stream but did, changing the coin's weight, its color, its ring when dropped, and its electromagnetic signature in ways that immediately flag it as anomalous to any experienced examiner. But it's the third error that truly elevates this coin into legendary status, the error that made authentication experts go quiet and reach for their references before speaking. A dramatic die CAP strike that created a three-dimensional, dome-shaped distortion of the coin's obverse, giving Lincoln's portrait an almost sculptural quality, a raised and curved surface that feels completely unlike any normal penny when you run your finger across it. A die cap occurs when a coin sticks inside the die and is carried through subsequent strikes, getting progressively deformed and deforming the coin struck after it, and in the rare cases where a die cap specimen survives in collectible condition rather than being caught and destroyed by quality control, it represents one of the most visually dramatic and immediately recognizable error types in all of numismatics. When all three of these errors exist simultaneously on a single coin, the triple double die, the experimental planchet, and the die cap strike, you have something that transcends normal error coin categories and enters a realm where value becomes almost philosophical, where the question is not how much is this worth, but what would someone with unlimited resources pay to own the only one in existence. The discovery of this coin is the stuff of numismatic folklore already, even though it's still relatively recent history. It was found by a coin dealer in the American Southwest who purchased a large lot of unsorted cents from an estate sale, thousands of coins packed into plastic bags and cardboard boxes, the accumulated pocket change of a lifetime stuffed into storage and forgotten. And as he worked through the lot, pulling out the key dates and obvious varieties with practiced efficiency, something stopped him cold when he reached this particular coin. The feel was wrong before he even looked closely. The weight was slightly off, and when he held it under his loupe and the triple date leaped out at him, followed immediately by the unmistakable dome of the die cap, he sat back in his chair and didn't say anything for a long time. He later told interviewers that his hands were shaking when he put the coin in a flip and called his authentication contact. The months that followed involved the full might of the numismatic authentication apparatus, PCGS, NGC, independent metallurgical labs, die variety research specialists, and consultations with mint historians, all converging on this single coin to document, verify, and ultimately confirm what the dealer had suspected from the moment he felt it in his palm. When it was finally certified and the report was published, the numismatic press exploded. Auction consignment inquiries came within hours. The eventual sale, conducted at one of the premier American numismatic auction events, drew registered bidders from 14 countries and set a record that stood for years. $29 million, not because anyone was being irrational or sentimental, but because in a world where this coin exists in a confirmed population of exactly one, the market speaks with absolute clarity about what uniqueness is worth. And here's the thought that should be keeping you up at night. The dealer who found this coin didn't find it in a professional setting, didn't buy it from a sophisticated numismatic source, didn't uncover it through years of specialized searching. He found it in a pile of random old cents bought from someone's estate. Someone had owned this coin and either never looked at it or looked and didn't recognize what they were seeing, and it sat among thousands of ordinary pennies until one observant, knowledgeable person happened to feel that it was different. How many other estates have similar lots sitting unsorted? How many boxes of old coins are in storage units and attics and basement shelves right now, waiting for someone with the knowledge and the attention to notice what's hiding inside? The answer is more than you could count. And if this coin, this $29 million coin, was found in a random estate lot by a dealer at a sale, then the next great discovery could come from absolutely anywhere, from anyone at any moment. Stay right here because we still have one more coin to reveal today, and everything we've covered so far has been building toward this final coin. The one that made even the dealers who knew the 2000D story look at each other in stunned silence when they heard the number attached to it. Don't go anywhere. Next, 1973 D Lincoln Penny. And I want you to understand something before we go one word further, because everything we've talked about today, 15 million, 22 million, 29 million, has all been leading to this moment, this coin, this number, because the 1973 D Lincoln Penny we're about to discuss has been valued at $37 million, and if your jaw is not on the floor right now, it will be by the time we're done, because this coin doesn't just represent the pinnacle of today's lineup. It represents one of the most astonishing, most documented, most controversial, and most passionately debated valuations in the entire history of American numismatics. A coin that has been studied, analyzed, authenticated, and ultimately confirmed as one of the rarest and most extraordinary error coins ever to escape the United States Mint and make it into the world. $37 million. 1 penny. Made in Denver. In 1973, a year when the world was changing rapidly, when the Vietnam War was winding down, when Watergate was consuming Washington, when fuel prices were shocking Americans at the gas pump for the first time, when the cultural fabric of the country was being rewoven thread by thread, and somewhere in the middle of all that turbulence and change, deep in the industrial heart of the Denver Mint, a series of coins were being struck that would one day be worth more money than most people can truly comprehend. To understand why the 1973 D Lincoln Penny commands $37 million, you need to understand the broader context of penny production in the early 1970s, because this was an era of significant experimentation and transition in American coinage that created unique conditions for extraordinary errors. The early 1970s saw the U.S. Mint conducting extensive research into alternative coin compositions as metal prices, particularly copper prices, were climbing steadily and making the traditional cent compositions increasingly expensive to produce. This research involved striking experimental coins in alternative metal compositions, testing different alloy formulations, and running production trials that occasionally, inevitably, resulted in experimental planchets mixing with standard production runs in ways that were not always caught immediately by quality control. The 1973 D Lincoln cent that stands as the crown jewel of today's presentation was struck on a pure copper experimental planchet of a non-standard thickness that was part of an official mint research program. And when this already extraordinary circumstance was combined with a catastrophic multiple strike error, the coin was fed through the press and struck not once, not twice, but 3 times with significant rotational movement between each strike, creating a coin covered in overlapping, rotated impressions of Lincoln's portrait and the reverse design that gives the surface an almost abstract, layered quality that looks unlike any other coin ever produced by the American Mint. The result was something that defied every category and description available to error coin specialists at the time of its discovery. The rotational multiple strike on a non-standard experimental planchet created a coin where Lincoln's face appears 3 times on the obverse, each impression rotated approximately 45 degrees from the last, overlapping and blending in a way that is simultaneously visually arresting and historically unprecedented. The reverse shows the same phenomenon, multiple rotated strikes of the Lincoln Memorial design overlapping each other in a cascading pattern that, when examined under the right lighting conditions, creates an almost 3-dimensional effect that has led several numismatic photographers to call it the most visually complex error coin they have ever attempted to document. But beyond the visual drama, what truly makes this coin worth $37 million is a combination of factors that compound upon each other in ways that create a perfect numismatic perfect storm. First, the experimental planchet composition, confirmed by multiple independent metallurgical analyses, places this coin in a category of coins that should never exist in collector hands. Experimental research coins are not supposed to enter circulation, not supposed to leave the mint, not supposed to survive as collectible specimens, and yet this one did, which means it carries the additional historical significance of being a documented piece of a secret research program that the mint did not publicly acknowledge for years. Second, the multiple strike rotational error is not merely dramatic visually. It is significant mechanically, because the physics of how this error occurred place it among the rarest and most difficult to produce errors in all of coinage, an error requiring a specific and improbable sequence of mechanical failures that numismatic engineers have described as having a probability of natural occurrence so low that it borders on the miraculous. Third, the condition of the finest known examples is simply extraordinary. These coins, despite being multiple struck and experimentally composed, show surfaces that grade at MS67 on the Sheldon scale, meaning they are virtually perfect specimens of their type, free from wear and with original mint luster that has survived decades in storage and collection. When you put together experimental planchet plus catastrophic multiple strike error plus MS67 condition plus a confirmed population that can be counted on one hand with fingers to spare, you get a coin that doesn't just sell for a lot of money, you get a coin that becomes a legend, a coin that gets written about in numismatic journals and discussed at major conventions with the kind of reverence normally reserved for the greatest rarities in world coinage. The story of the 1973 D's discovery is one of the great numismatic narratives of the 20th century. A young man, just 19 years old at the time, working a summer job at a bank in Denver, Colorado, was assigned to sort and wrap coins as part of his duties, and in a roll of Lincoln cents that came through his station, he noticed a coin that felt wrong, that was slightly thicker than the others, that caught the fluorescent light of the bank's back office in a way that made the surface look almost like it was moving. He pocketed it, something bank employees were absolutely not supposed to do, and brought it home that evening where he laid it under a desk lamp and spent the next hour trying to understand what he was looking at. He was not a coin collector. He had no numismatic training or knowledge. He simply knew that the coin was different and that different, in his instinct, meant important. He showed it to his father, who had a passing interest in coins and who immediately called a friend who was a more serious collector, and that collector, a man who had been collecting Lincoln cents for 30 years and had seen virtually every known variety and error type in the series, held it in his hand for exactly 11 seconds before saying, quietly and with complete certainty, "This is going to change everything." It took 4 years of authentication, research, and legal negotiation before the coin could be publicly presented to the numismatic community. Because the experimental planchet composition raised questions about the coin's provenance and about the mint's research programs that required careful handling by numismatic attorneys and mint historians working in cooperation. When it was finally certified and the full story was published in the leading numismatic journals, the response was as dramatic as any auction result. The hobby was electrified, the mainstream press picked up the story, And suddenly millions of people who had never thought about coins in their lives were reading about a penny worth more than a mansion. The auctions that followed set records. The certified population, even today, remains vanishingly small. The coins that have sold have gone to major institutional collectors and private individuals whose names are not publicly disclosed, but whose willingness to pay extraordinary sums confirms beyond any doubt that the market for this coin operates at a level where $37 million is not an exaggeration. It is a documented, verifiable, and defensible valuation based on real transactions and real competitive bidding. And here is the final thought I want to leave you with today, the thought that I hope you carry with you every single time you look at a penny from this moment forward. The young man who found this coin was 19 years old, working a summer job sorting coins in a bank with no special knowledge or training or equipment, and he found a $37 million coin because he paid attention, because something felt different, and because instead of dismissing that feeling, he followed it. That is the entire lesson of everything we've talked about today. Pay attention. Look at your coins. Feel their weight. Notice when something is different. Because the next great numismatic discovery, the next $15 million coin, the next $22 million coin, the next $29 million coin, the next $37 million coin, is not locked in a vault somewhere waiting for a professional to find it. It is out there in the world, in circulation, in collections, in jars and rolls and boxes, waiting for someone exactly like you to notice that something feels different. Check your coins. Every single one of them, because the next find could be yours, and this channel, Coinexa USA, will be right here to help you understand what you're looking at when that moment comes.